This month, communities around the world will commemorate 111 years since 1.5 million men, women, and children were systematically targeted in a campaign of race extermination by the Ottoman Empire. It was an effort to annihilate the Armenian people, but it failed. Over the years, as the representative from Glendale and Pasadena and Hollywood had the opportunity to sit in the living room of survivors and hear their stories, my successor in the House, Laura Friedman, now has that same opportunity to meet with their families. And I heard of the harrowing experiences, and I also understood and felt the deep pain of the ancestors of those who were lost, experiencing year after year of denial, a shameful silence or complicity with Turkey to deny what had happened to their family. And I was so grateful that under the leadership of Nancy Pelosi, that in 2019, the House of Representatives took up the resolution I introduced, officially recognizing the Armenian Genocide, and it passed overwhelmingly. On a bipartisan basis, we all stand on the shoulders of those who went before, and none of that would have been possible without your extraordinary efforts, without this amazing diaspora that overcame well-funded lobbying efforts by Turkey and by Azerbaijan and by others, overcame the advocacy of Democratic secretaries of state and Republican secretaries of state. I remember former President Bush on the phone calling members of the Foreign Affairs Committee to urge them to vote against the genocide resolution. When does a president call members of a committee? But that was the kind of intensive lobbying this community was up against, and yet you prevailed. And of course, you had great allies in the Congress, like Frank Pallone, who is the original and forever chair of the Armenian caucus. I was also deeply grateful when President Biden in 2021, finally from the Oval Office, acknowledged that genocide is genocide, and it is never in our interest to be complicit in Turkey's campaign of denial. Some in the current administration are sadly retreating from that important progress, and we must push back against that retreat. During my time in public service, it has been the strength and resilience of the Armenian community that has been one of the greatest inspirations in my career, and now that strength of this community is being tested again. Azerbaijan, with the support of Turkey, attacked Artsakh in 2020. They blockaded Artsakh for 10 months. And then in 2023, the Aliyev regime took control of Artsakh, an area that had been systematically starved and ethnically cleansed of its Armenian population. Azerbaijan continues to hold at least 19 prisoners of war from that conflict and recently sentenced Artsakh leaders to terms of 20 years to life in prison. These sham trials and phony charges cannot be allowed to stand. While we commemorate the lives lost over a century ago, we are reminded of those who were tragically driven from their ancestral homeland just a few years ago, only deepening the suffering of the Armenian people and underscoring the urgent need for international guarantees that ensure that those who have been ethnically cleansed from the area are able to go back to their homes. So we need to continue to advocate for Armenia's security and its sovereignty. We must hold the Aliyev regime accountable and call attention to the destruction and desecration of Armenian religious and cultural sites by Azerbaijan in its effort to erase Armenian culture and history. That accountability includes going beyond the implementation of the peace agreement signed last summer at the White House, since that agreement does not even mention the prisoners of war that Azerbaijan continues to hold. And I know that the truth and justice will ultimately prevail, because from what I've seen, Armenians do not waver in speaking truth to power, in fighting for justice and human rights, in strengthening diplomatic ties between the United States and Armenia. We know there remains much work to do. We know the fight is not over. But as the famous son of Fresno, William Saroyan, wrote, "Go ahead, destroy this race. Let us say that it is again 1915. There is war in the world. Destroy Armenia. See if you can do it. See if they will not live again. See if they will not laugh again." Powerful words that united a nation then and ring even more true today.